My name is Paul Campbell, and I am going to continue to read Message to the Millennials by Brother Rizza Islam. Chapter 10 Law of the Land. In this chapter, we will only be scratching the surface of a very pregnant topic. This is simply a sample, and I highly recommend that if this subject is of interest to you, that you do your own in-depth independent research. However, I recommend you do not take this information and attempt to run with it on our own without having full data. We will get more in-depth into what you can actually do to remove yourself and your family from the servitude that has been created by the system that is discussed in this chapter. Understanding words is what we really need to start doing. We need to start doing our homework in understanding words. Human beings are world-controlled creatures, so we need to establish that words actually mean what words actually mean. As a good student dictionary, make sure you understand which definition is being applied in a conversation, seeing how words have more than one meaning. You always want to make sure that the words being used are in the proper context. Make sure to pay close attention, especially if it is a legal definition. Always remember that words are used constantly against people. So to have the proper definition and to have the proper context put in place guarantees a higher likelihood of understanding and overall comprehension and success. Now, when we're talking about law, there's an ancient Roman maxim that says, "For he that would be deceived, let him." Basically, if you are so ignorant as to be deceived, that's your business. That's your problem. This means you are the one who must control the destiny of where your knowledge comes from. You are the one who must control how intelligent or how ignorant you will be. It is not up to anyone else. It cannot be blamed on anyone else. It cannot be placed on the shoulders of anyone else. You and I must take full responsibility and accountability for our mental framework and the direction of where our minds go. From the moment we step into a level of higher consciousness and awareness, we then have become the masters of our intellectual destiny. So we need to constantly understand what words and symbols mean, especially when it comes to law and government. There is an entire world of cultism that is operating today throughout the world in which you and I use certain words that we do not fully understand. And when those words are used in a court, they don't mean the same thing at all. Understanding law and the words of law, you will find there are two primary things which this planet has: water and earth, or water and land. Consequently, there are two kinds of law: the law of the land and the law of the water. You've heard the term law of the land, but in point of fact, that's precisely what this word means: law of the land, because it is the people who live on the land. Now, you can do things in America that you can't do in Russia. You can do things in Africa that you can't do in England. So the law of the land is the law of the culture that lives on that particular land. However, there is a higher law that dominates the entire world. It is called the law of water, or the law of the high seas. The law of water is referred to as the law of money. In this realm, it doesn't matter what color you are, where you're from, or where you live. Money is money. And anytime you're doing banking or using money, you are now under the law of water. Maritime Admiralty. If you go back in ancient history, where all of this began back in the land of Canaan, you can read about Canaan in the Bible, or the Canaanites, who were Phoenician. In the ancient Phoenician language, Canaan meant merchant banker. The very word merchant comes from myrrh, which means sea or water, as in mermaid. We have merchant bankers. The law of water, as I said, is the law of banking and money. The Statue of Liberty must be put in water. It could not be put on American land as such. It had to be put in the harbor because it is not the Statue of Freedom. It is the Statue of Liberty. Liberty is what a sailor gets when he pulls into port on a ship. He gets liberty. He is not free. So America is not the land of the free, nor the home of the brave. It is not free nor brave. This is not a free country. Let me give you an example of the deficit between the law of water and the law of the land. Why is it that you have to go to court? People are always concerned about going to court. You go to court because you play basketball and tennis and other sports on a court. How do you play tennis on a court? You play with a racket. Why? Because that's what it is. It's a racket. And make no mistake, they do not pick words by chance. These words are very serious and very specific. They are very important. When you go into a court with the idea of going into a court, it's like going into a basketball game. The whole idea is to put the ball back in the other guy's court. One team gets up and they throw the ball all over the other team of lawyers, all over to the other team of lawyers. That team gets up and throws the ball back to the first team of lawyers in their court, and consequently, there's a ball game. The judge is wearing a black robe, which means he is a referee. The judge is a referee. He doesn't care which side wins or loses because he's going to get paid either way. So he couldn't care any less. He is merely there as a referee, and that's why he wears that black robe. He is a pirate representing a corporation. When you go into a court, you are stepping onto a ship, and when you see the flags behind the judge, what you are looking at is a Jolly Roger, which is the traditional English name for the flags flown to identify a pirate ship about to attack during the early 18th century. The judge not only represents a referee, he represents a pirate or piracy working on behalf of a corporation to extort money from the people. It's very slick and wicked how they set this thing up. So the judge in the average case represents a referee in between two teams. And this what truly is occurring when you go to court. Far more than what it appears to be on the surface. The judge rules from the bench. The word bench in Latin means a bank. Therefore, the judge rules for the bank. Where do you find banks? You find banks on both sides of a river. They're called riverbanks. And what does a riverbank do? It directs the flow of the currency. Consequently, Your money is currency because it's the flow, the cash flow. I'll give you an example of how this works. All ships are referred to as females. Airships, rockets, ships, and sailing ships are always female. Why? There's a very good reason. Maritime admiralty banking law says all ships are female because they are carrying items. They're carrying items for money, and so consequently, they are under maritime admiralty law. Admiralty is where we get the word admiral or admiral of the Navy. When a ship pulls into a harbor and it parks and ties off at the dock, the captain has to provide to the port authorities a certificate of manifest. Because yesterday, this ship was not there, but today the ship has ported and manifested. So as a result, all the products, the $1,800 million worth of TVs or cars have manifested. So each one of those items coming off of that ship have come off of water, and it has come on a ship. All ships have a good captain. All ships have a captain. The word captain comes from a Latin word meaning capital or money. So the captain represents the money that's on board the ship. And as I said, the captain has to present to the port authorities a certificate of manifest for each and every item. How much does it weigh? What color is it? How many doors does it have, etc.? The ship is sitting in its berth whenever a ship sits. It's called in its berth. She sits in her berth or berthing. All of the items coming off of the ship represent money. They came off of water. Understand maritime admiralty. This is true all over the world. Now, when you were born, your mother's water broke. And when your mother's water broke, you came out. You were birthed. And this is why you have to have a birth certificate, because you are a maritime admiralty product. Under international law, your body is considered a maritime admiralty product. Your mother delivered you. This is why if you go to a store, they will ship an item to you. They will deliver it to you. That's why we were in a delivery room. Well, our mother was delivering a product, maritime admiralty. You came down your mother's birth canal, understand? Now, as you're taking one of the products off the ship, a car, TV, etc., let's say it breaks. Well, that happens. In a hospital, they call it a stillborn, which means you've lost money on that one. Remember, according to maritime admiralty, your body and a car are one and the same when being delivered. So therefore, you have to have a death certificate, which happens to be signed by the doctor/doc. The doc has to sign the birth certificate. All of these words and terms are maritime admiralty banking words. And therefore, if you understand lawyers and judges and courts and governments, they are all under international maritime admiralty law. These things become much deeper and take far more examination, study, and research than most people can imagine. It is only because we've fallen so far into ignorance that concepts like this one, are even remotely difficult. We have no choice. It's time to get back to studying and research. Think about this. At a certain point, there was sovereignty. We actually had sovereignty where we were self governed and ruled over ourselves without an outside power or authority. Now, from 1868 right down to this very moment, this country has been under international maritime admiralty law. For example, remember the cowboy movie when they would show cowboys and Indians and they would show them riding into town? They would get off the horse and they were wearing guns. Why is that they were able to walk into a bar with guns and if two guys got into an argument, they could go outside to the street and draw on each other in front of the sheriff's office and the sheriff would do nothing? How is that? How were men able to go out in the street and shoot each other in front of everyone and nothing would happen? Prior to 1868, all so called Americans were considered sovereigns, with the exception of those who were enslaved. And that was one of the benefits of being a sovereign. You have the right to own yourself and the right to self governing. We have to understand that in 1868, there was a corporation founded. Anyone can incorporate a company. But in 1868, there was a company incorporated. And in that particular company, the founders of that company called it or referred to it as the United States Corporation. They stipulated that anyone who would be a member of that corporation or work for that corporation would be called not an employee, but a citizen. So today, if you are asked, are you a citizen of the United States? What you think you're being asked is, are you lawfully in this country to do business? That isn't what is being asked. They didn't ask, were you in America lawfully? They asked you a specific question. Are you of your own volition, out of your own mouth, testifying that you are a citizen of the United States? Because in that way, citizen of the United States means you are an employee of a foreign corporation operating under the international maritime law. So today, the president of the United States is the president of a privately owned company. Each of the states in the United States, the corporation, have Dun and Bradstreet numbers. These numbers are reserved for corporations only. The company is called United States, and the word president is always a word that is used in corporate law. Banks have presidents. All companies have presidents. So it is a corporation called the United States, privately owned, and it has a president. President Donald Trump is not the president of America. President Donald Trump is the president of a privately owned company, privately owned out of England, and we need to understand words and terms. I think we can truly understand just how detrimental it has been that we have not understood words and how they have been used against us. Once you begin to see how all the words and terms are based on maritime admiralty, the law of water, the cash flow, the liquid assets, it goes all the way back to the English or British domination of the seas. And so when the British began to dominate the seas, the Knights Templar, the Masonic Order, of the Knights Templar, who had been in the middle of Asia, came back into Eastern Europe, brought all these concepts, and it was developed into a commercial system of words and terms and symbols which are used in courts, in government, and in corporations. For example, you know your body is a corporation. It's called by law your physical body, a corporation. So when you die, you are a corpse, because when you are living, you are a corporation. You are a business. So if you hang out with the wrong person, you say that person is bad business. Or if you hang out with the right person, you say this person is good business. They used to say that when you get married to the right person, that he or she is of good stock, right? Words and terms are based on maritime admiralty. The law of water specifically in this case. So that's why when you go into a courtroom, you have the gate between you and the judge, where you sit on one side and the judge sits on the opposite side of the gate. The gate is called a floodgate. When you go through the canal, you have a floodgate. So when you're sitting behind it, you're sitting on the law of the land. The judge has no control or jurisdiction over the people sitting behind the gate. No jurisdiction whatsoever. That's outside of the gate. That's on land. But when you walk past that gate, now you're in hot water, and someone's going to have to bail you out. The word bail in court doesn't mean what we've been made to believe. In maritime admiralty, bail is referring to the scooping of water out of a ship. So the bail is to help you escape jail or get off the ship, you see? But it's fascinating because when you understand this subject, life becomes different. When you understand and just how pervasive this concept of water is on the earth. The law of water, or maritime admiralty, is an extraordinary story of how governments rule the world. And if you do not understand this, you will never truly figure out what is going on. Now, all over the world, all governments are ruled by what is called civil law. The law of the land is civil law, Roman civil law, but there is a second law which also operates all over the earth. It's called UCC, Uniform Commercial Code. That is the law of God in the world of business. Whether you are in Japan, Africa, China, or anywhere in the world, you have a company, corporation, or if you are doing business when you are buying and selling to make money, you are operating on this earth under Uniform Commercial Code. If all countries worked under a different commercial code, no one could do business with anyone else, at least not effectively. It was established under Caesar of Rome that all nations in the empire that do business must play on a level playing field. If you do business in Africa with China, you pay them. And if Africa does business with American companies, they're supposed to pay them. You pay whatever it is or whoever it is you're doing business with. The most severe law in this world is Uniform Commercial Code. Uniform Commercial Code. It's the Bible of business on the earth. Uniform Commercial Code is based directly on Vatican Roman canon law. Now we speak a little on maritime law, where we mention the birth certificate and when you come out of your mother's water. Therefore, you must have a birth certificate or a certificate of manifest because you are a corporation. You are a human resource. This goes back to the German Nazi concept that every human coming out of their mother's water must be birthed. And therefore, you have to have a certificate of manifest to see how much this individual is going to make for us in our new world order. I'm telling you that until you understand the laws, the symbols, emblems, and what these words mean, you'll never suspect how far gone we really are. Did you know, for example, that your birth certificate is a security traded on the New York stock market and across the globe? If you order your birth certificate and look on the bottom, it will tell you that this is printed on security paper. Do not accept if not on full color security paper. On the right hand corner, you'll see a series of numbers, normally red numbers. Those numbers are a security stock exchange number on the World Stock Exchange. Go to any stock office and ask them to check those numbers and the computer to see how much the stock is worth, and they will check it on the New York Stock Exchange. What they will find is you. You are worth money to the international bank that bought you. We need to wake up. We are used as leverage for war. We are used as an investment property. This is one of the reasons why there are so many things occurring, not only in this country, but in other countries. So it is quite evident and obvious that everyone needs to meet their straw man. He was born in the same day as you. He looks like you, has the same name, and lives in your house, but you never knew he existed. You will have even you will have even paid his parking tickets or taxes. The worst part is that he's been dead from day one. From every birth certificate and a legal personality or legal fiction or corporation is created with the same name as you to confuse you into thinking it's you. So there is a human, you, and then a legal corporate paper. You are what is commonly known as a straw man. So it seems like government officials, court clerks, or police officers are speaking English. They aren't. They're speaking legalese, designed to get you sucked into verbal agreements and contracts without you even knowing. We need to study the Black's Law Dictionary in order to gain a true understanding of what's really being said. For example, when the police say, "Do you understand?" you'll say yes. But what they are really saying is, "Do you stand under our authority? Do you know that you've just created a verbal contract with them? Did you know that whenever you register something, you're handing over a title to the person you registered with? Whenever you register anything with the government, they assume it belongs to them. This includes registering your car. If you're expecting a child, they tell you to register your baby with a new birth certificate. Then they can start the process all over again and create a new straw man for your little one. So when your child grows up, he or she will be able to generate revenue just like you have for the government. When you get a bill, it's sent to you, but belongs to your straw man, not you. That's why bills and summons start with a Mr., Mrs., Ms., or most of the time, you'll see your name in capital letters, just like on a grave. That's because your straw man is dead and just really a piece of paper created before you even knew what consent was. When you go to court, you represent your straw man. So you are the living, breathing human beings taking up on costs, fees, and taxes meant for the dead straw man. The human being you didn't even need to pay them, but you made a contract with the court by appearing on behalf of your legal personality that they created. The government doesn't want you to know any of this. And if you did know, you would stop paying taxes, parking tickets, parking tickets, and many other things. When you go to court, you're representing something that doesn't even exist. You are you, a living human being made of flesh and blood. Your straw man or your legal personality is a piece of paper created from your birth certificate, and you think it's you. Funny, right? The powers that be in this world have set up a world of symbols and emblems and terms and catchphrases. You know, once you understand how this system works, it's fascinating because for the first time, the world will open up to you on a whole new level of perspective. How the government works, how banks work, how institutions and education, etc., works. It is a very well planned, organized, and directed agenda, so to speak. Once you begin to see the symbols and realize what these symbols represent, like the national code of arms for countries, the flags, the seals, the presidential seals, the emblems for the logos, and emblems on corporate business and corporations, especially the corporate emblems from motion pictures and television companies. For instance, Columbia Broadcasting or CBS looking at the eye and things like the Colombian system, you will be truly shocked. There is so much that goes into this subject, and all of it is right in front of us. But if we don't understand what the words are and what they mean, we are never going to figure out how this stuff works. We need to understand that Washington, D.C. is a Jesuit Catholic establishment under international maritime admiralty law. And once we begin to see how the system of the ancient Catholics, the Jesuits, the ancient Roman Empire, the Phoenician, Canaanite banking system is all part of a world dominating system, we will begin to think, act, and respond much differently. Now, on speaking of you as the living, breathing human being rather than a corporation created under this government for a fictitious system, how do we analyze this? How do we distinguish when a person is addressing you, that they are addressing you as the you that your mother gave birth to, or the corporate you from the birth certificate? Let's see. Every piece of important paperwork, your bills, your insurance, driver's license, on application, taxes, whatever it is, if it's a piece of business period in any kind of way, shape, or form, your name must appear by law. International Maritime Admiralty banking law must appear in all capitalized letters. When you signed your name, upper and lowercase, that is applying to your body, your flesh and blood self, as spelled according to British and American law. Upper and lowercase, that is you. There is no law that can be applied to an upper and lowercase named period. And that's why the attorneys say you better check the small print. All this brings a new level of understanding to what a free person and what a slave truly is. There are different levels to this, and most individuals within this country have no idea that this even exists. Most people believe they are free. Most of them believe there is a level of comfort that they can live in, yet they do not understand that every day they live, there's a corporation living beside them with the same exact name, generating wealth for their government, and that when the living human being, dies, the corporation gets cashed out, and all that money, which is usually millions, goes straight to the government, and you are simply discarded. You are a worthless person because you did not invoke your rights as a living being. You just allowed a corporation to live in your place. This, along with many other topics, should be discussed and delved into because we have to step out of slavery in every way, shape, and form. No one who is born in this country should be born under this type of tyranny, primarily those who are Black. However, we see that this system does not give a damn about human beings, period. Blacks being the number one disenfranchised population. But everyone below that, including brown, red, yellow, and even poor whites, are included. So it is only smart that everyone become educated, knowledgeable, and wise so that we can step into true freedom. That was chapter 10.